Remember when Microsoft used to make a lot of video games? I feel like the original Xbox's legacy is mixed. Microsoft's first foray into the video game console market was brought to light with lots of fanfare, press conferences, a unique library of games, and of course, celebrity appearances.
It will be the most electrifying thing coming out this year.
The Microsoft Xbox launched worldwide November 15th, 2001, the same year the Sega Dreamcast was discontinued, and I've always seen it as a spiritual successor. The controllers rocking the 2 memory card slots, there was a strong Sega IP presence, both are extremely easy to soft mod, online gaming was at the forefront of the business model, and heck, Peter Moore worked for both companies. Lest we forget the totally real Halo 2 tattoo.
The moment Xbox Nation's been waiting for.
People probably remember the original Xbox for Halo 1 and 2, Fable, Ninja Gaiden, and Project Gotham Racing, maybe? Truthfully, if you look at the top sellers, there's a lot of multiplats, sports games, and that one console port of Counter-Strike 1.6, but there's so much more. They pushed Xbox Live as the first successful console-based multiplayer gaming network. SegaNet walked so Xbox Live could run and give us the sofa smack talk that's lasted for generations.
So yeah, you're gay.
The original Xbox had a little under 1,000 official releases worldwide, a bit shy of the PlayStation 2's 4,000, but that's still a ton of games that have gone totally under the radar. Like, when was the last time you thought of launch title Mad Dash Racing, underappreciated gems like Crimson Sea, or bizarre exclusives like Whacked? Surely everyone remembers Whacked.
I guess they don't make skin-tight rubber like they used to.
How'd they get away with this? So yo, it's Austin, and today we're gonna be diving into my soft-modded Xbox in the last few weeks of me messing around. It's time for forgotten and weird Xbox games. I literally just hooked this thing up for the wakeboarding game a couple videos ago, and I haven't been able to stop playing stuff on it, so there we go. All that being said, we've got a ton to get into today, but wait, hold up. My phone battery's dying. Slide. This video has been sponsored by Ugreen and Honkai Star Rail. That's right, Ugreen and Honkai Star Rail have teamed up to release a limited edition HSR-themed fast-charging power-up kit and premium collector's box for your workspace and electronic devices. This one's for the gamers out there who want to keep their charges going. All great on the go, all featuring Honkai's new S-rank character, Yao Guang. The actual collector's gift box is super nice. It's all themed around the character, and it fans out as you open the thing, similar to the outfit design. It comes with a lot. We got the Ugreen MagFlow Air Magnetic Power Bank. It's ultra slim and features the Qi 2. That's 15-watt wireless fast charging. It's got 10,000 mAh capability, which means it can charge up an iPhone around 2 times as fast with its built-in cable. We've got the 65-watt charger with its pocket-sized design and foldable plug. That's the one you want to take on the go. There's a retractable cable for everyday usage, as well as the Ugreen Fine Track for Apple users. Never lose your luggage, or heck, miniature wargaming collection again. And of course, for the Honkai fans, if you buy the gift box, there's a collection of Yao Guang acrylic stand, tin badge, holographic ticket, and a pouch for you to store all those goodies. Also, if you'd like a little more, you can pick up the Ugreen Nexode Pro Power Bank. This one's a staple with a 45-watt output and comes with a smart display so you can see how much you got left. Ugreen has a solid product for all your energy needs, and if you like Honkai Star Rail, don't miss out. Check out the Ugreen and Honkai Star Rail series with my links in the description, and get yourself a chance to win a gold collectible. Click the link below. Thanks to Ugreen for the sponsor, but for now, I think it's time we go back about 25 years. I think it's pretty easy to forget what launched on the original Xbox, besides the fact that it was the destination for the best multiplats, considering it could output 720p. But it was also the destination for a bunch of absurd licensed games like Star Wars Obi-Wan.
Nothing unusual to report. Are you sure my presence here is necessary?
That doesn't sound right. What is that accent, Beetle?
We just sent 4 dummies out there.
Back off. I'm warning you.
Star Wars Obi-Wan, not the TV show, although that might have been an attempt to cover up this game, is an exclusive launch window title developed in-house by LucasArts, and I always wanted to play this one. As a cool kid with a Darth Maul poster hanging up from the ages 9 to 13, Star Wars The Phantom Menace was the best thing ever. So if you put old Rat Tail Kenobi on the cover, super blurry and barely visible, it's gonna get some intrigue. 10 out of 10 box art here. Obi-Wan is an action hack and slash that throws you into a prequel of the prequels as you go through the Padawan training, hanging out with Qui-Gon, and doing infinite cartwheels, you know, effective Jedi dodging. It's got all the staples you'd expect, familiar set pieces, the big Star Wars music, sound effects, and a whole lot of lightsabers going whoosh, all controlled with the power of your right analog stick. Psst, we're gonna see this multiple times in this video. Everyone wanted to copy Ape Escape, I guess. Tilt the right analog stick to swing the saber in one of 3 directions, hold down to block lasers, combine it with the left trigger for more powerful attacks that'll consume your force meter, all while generic face button presses barely do anything. I'm glad I have the smaller smaller controller because the idea of having to quickly shift from analog swings to pressing the white button on a Duke is giving me carpal tunnel. Unfortunately, the mind of a child can be deceiving, as Obi-Wan was absolutely gutted in the reviews, rocking a 58 on Metacritic. The combat is bare bones, and you'll be spending a lot of time wildly swinging at stuff, just hoping it connects. It definitely gets cool points for being the first 3D console game where you get to play as a bona fide Jedi, and it makes you feel cool, but it's not a very nice looking game. Some of the AI's brain dead. The levels are massive and don't do a good job of conveying your objectives or where to go. Apparently this was gonna be hitting the PC, but was turned into an Xbox exclusive, rushed out the door for a launch window release, and what we see is what we get. 3 Obi-Wan Kenobi Moon loading screens and a single line of dialogue for failed interactions.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Obi-Wan is okay. It's very forgettable. It's the kind of licensed jank that you've come to love and expect. But at the very least, you can still do infinite cartwheels while on fire.
I'm not sure.
Y'all ever play the Magic the Gathering fighting game? Like, actually, Magic the Gathering Battlegrounds, coming out in 2003 by Secret Level Incorporated, also known as Sega Studios San Francisco, who brought us Iron Man 2 and Golden Axe Beast Rider. This is way better than both of those. It's relatively simple. You take control of one of several duelists, you pick up mana as it spawns on the field to increase your maximum, you set up a deck of 9 different abilities based on your elements, and then spawn dudes in to try and take over the other player. You're separated by a line in the middle, which you can cross if you'd like to deliver a little smack. Although, looking at high skill gameplay, it seems far more reliant on properly using spells, enchantments, and minions. There's actually a community of people that still play this online with the PC version, and even some of the gameplay videos are far beyond anything that I could think of. Funny enough, this wasn't even the first attempt at making a strategy game with magic. There was also Battle Mage on the PlayStation 1, but I'm gonna say this one's way better. Plus, it's an easy way to develop vocal stems.
Carnophage.
The other trading card game turned video game is a little more faithful. Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dawn of Destiny is straight up Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, the Xbox had Yu-Gi-Oh! During a time where some of these adaptations were more creative, like Duel of the Roses with its board game style approach, Falsebound Kingdom being a straight up RPG, and Capsule Monster Coliseum being a tactics release, The Dawn of Destiny dared to be simply duel monsters. There's no big narrative, there's no walking around a map and hanging out, just a menu with some opponents and very basic monster animations. Yeah, identifying wood picture, except it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Yep, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! One without online multiplayer on the console built for it, which is a massive shame. At the very least, it was a way to play the card game with the proper rule set, even if it's pretty feature light. Although honestly, I'd rather play Duel Academy or one of the Game Boy Advance releases. Then we got something like Hunter the Reckoning Redeemer. Yep, fresh off of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, I couldn't not immediately dip into another World of Darkness franchise, this one about monster hunters. Vampires, zombies, werewolves, a modern gothic punk looking Van Helsing for tabletop role-playing gamers now from the comfort of your television screen. However, Redeemer's not the first nor the second. The original Hunter the Reckoning, developed by High Voltage Software, was a multi-platform hack and slash action game where you run through a campaign, level to level shooting and slicing everything in sight, maybe with 4 people. It's a very arcadey experience that's a fun romp the whole time. And this had a sequel, Hunter the Reckoning Wayward, specifically for the PlayStation 2. Now limited to 2 players only and with darker, duller visuals, Wayward received slightly worse reviews, but embraced a more survival horror feel. Still kind of arcadey, and I think still pretty good. Then, coming out a mere month later would be not a port of Wayward, but a completely different Hunter the Reckoning game by the same studio, Redeemer. One part gauntlet, another part horror, Redeemer adds a 5th character, the box cover gracing Kaylee, as the Redeemer, and is completely different than Wayward, which is immediately apparent by the fact that every menu transition is explosions. The tone is obviously a little different. The character select is more video gamey than the profile seen in Wayward. We start out in the middle of a warehouse fight where all of our characters come front and center. You run through this tutorial where you realize they made melee the triggers for some reason. And then you'll see 3 bars on the top left. This represents your character's mastery with melee, ranged attacks, and edge, which is essentially your supernatural powers. That changes depending on the character, of course. And you have to use them to level it up. Then you're thrown into the city of Ashcroft, where Redeemer reveals reveals itself to be a Christmas video game. Yeah, sorry, I guess we missed one. You'll run around these snowy streets beating the crap out of endless waves of monsters, picking up power-up guns and abilities to blow things away Smash TV style, and do little missions as you run through the campaign by yourself or with some friends. Although you might want some friends because some of the bosses are absolutely not balanced for a single person. Seriously, I've been fighting this dude for like 10 minutes. He constantly dodges, and when I do get a hit in, it's barely any damage. Thankfully, we do have several lives. Hunter the Reckoning Redeemer is a lot of fun. The visuals can get a little samey, especially when most in-between levels take place in Ashcroft, which looks largely the same. But you'll be diving into sewers, future tech labs, heck, you'll even be fighting Santa Claus, because what good is a game that takes place on Christmas if you don't get to clock the claws? You also go into a nightclub that's infested with zombies, clearly taking the darker horror tones from the previous two releases and aligning it a bit closer to Bloodlines. I mean, look, these zombies are throwing down. Redeemer does have some issues. The balance isn't quite there. You'll either feel super powerful or way too weak. The melee combo system isn't very easy to pick up, especially when combos look like this. Edge abilities are a mixed bag, and you'll be fighting to find power-ups more than relying on your RPG progression and abilities. But hey, when something reminds me of Gauntlet Legends in any shape, I'm into it. It looks like the newly announced Hunter the Reckoning Death Wish is going to be leaning into a more traditional action RPG route, with a more grounded, heavy vibe, so we may not get the pure 2003 character design of Kaylee, but I'm glad to see this franchise being picked back up in video games. However, if you want a fun treat on the original Xbox, have a few friends, and a couple hours to spare, Redeemer's awesome.
Do you really want to do this? Leave!
Alrighty, that's enough licensed games. Those can be kind of a crapshoot. So instead, why don't we talk about games that are like awesome? You may not realize it, but the original Xbox has a ton of forgotten gems. For example, Deathrow. Even if the cover looks like this, don't worry about it. Deathrow rules.
Have you peeked out the curtain to where after I've crushed your balls?
2002's Deathrow by Southend Interactive and Ubisoft is an extreme sports video game that takes place in the year 2219. It's all about Blitz, not to be confused with Blitzball. It takes two teams of players, gives them a flying disc, full sets of armor, and a goal to toss it through. It's like Ultimate Frisbee and Discs of Tron with prisoners, ninjas, marines, cyber angels, and demons. And a healthy amount of smack talk. Look, this doesn't have a big narrative or a ton of depth. We're talking about a multiplayer sports game, one that unfortunately only supported local and system link, but that system link was probably a great time. You team up with some buddies, smack each other around, throw some discs into goals, and check out the loading screens featuring fake advertisements for tons of fake products. You want some how to draw manga ass looking people? You got them. Beyond skirmishes and matches, there's a conquest mode, which throws you into a tournament bracket as a team manager. Just instead of trading dudes, you're using credits to heal players and maybe using performance-enhancing drugs. So yeah, a traditional sports sim. By all means, Deathrow is horribly generic. The music's uninspired, the visuals are kind of dreary. It doesn't go into the actual world or why the game is called Deathrow as much as I'd like, but I love a lot of the voice acting. The gameplay's loose and it works. It's easy to pass to another player, to jump, throw the discs, and of course to get into scuffles, or you know, just tossed onto the ground. Deathrow even got decent reviews at the time, coming in with a 79 on Metacritic. It's just the right amount of jank, and I loved every second this was in my Xbox. One of these days I'll see about putting together a system link party for Deathrow, mostly so we can all just spam the taunt button. Keeping it with extreme sports for a sec, how's about Carve? Coming out in the later half of the Xbox's lifespan, Carve was developed by Argonaut Games, who you might recognize from the original Star Fox, Crocs 1 and 2, and Buck Bumble. In their last year of game releases, they had Malice, Catwoman the Game, and a strange one in Carve. You like jet skis? Well, this is for you. An Xbox exclusive Carve, you do the jet ski thing. One with fancy tricks, big combo scores, jet speed boosting, and visuals that are somehow more more impressive and worse looking than its closest equivalent, Wave Race Blue Storm. The water looks nice and it has a good sense of speed, but the baked-in resolution is crunchy, the levels can be uninspired, the tricks finicky to pull off, and frankly, it's just tough to see with water splashing on the camera the entire time. Reviews from back then were pretty mixed, but it does have a nice soundtrack and a fun vibe. Plus, you got characters with ridiculous names like Adrienne and Max Inferno. Are they siblings? Married? I don't know. Just make sure not to break the laws of physics when doing cool tricks. And also, don't forget about Wreckless the Yakuza missions, a title that's got a few major differences from its fellow console versions. Wreckless has you playing as one of two sides. You're either a pair of two goofy cops or two goofy spies hunting down the Yakuza in Hong Kong.
Madoka, stop! These guys were driving the armored van, not the Yakuza cars!
Huh? Oh, sorry, guys.
Chubby Wubby, this is Hubby Dubby. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. You're not saying I look chubby in this, are you?
Chubby Wubby? You wouldn't be able to expect any of this from the US cover. Wreckless was developed by Japanese developer Bunkasha Games, and it exudes charm. All of the cutscenes have this cornball feeling to them, and the gameplay is similar. It's goofy chaos. Despite driving around Hong Kong, it is a mission-based game, and most of those missions have you going against the namesake, full-on wrecking into everything in sight until they explode, probably die, you get a cutscene or two, and on to the next mission. Wreckless is fun and dumb. It can be beaten in a single day. It's a little blurry on the original hardware because it was pushing visuals pretty hard, but hey, it was something unique and bizarre. But that's not all. 3 years later, and a few months prior to the Xbox 360 launching, we'd get a full-on sequel. Just one that's Japanese only, because I guess Activision didn't want to publish it over here, even though the game is entirely in English already. Double Steel: The Second Clash. It seems to be a little bit easier than the original, especially with some of the cars handling a little less crazy style. Unfortunately, I was unable to get this running on my soft-modded Xbox or emulation even, but one of these days I'll need to track a copy down, a TV with component support, and give it a shot. And the same with Steel Battalion 2, but I ain't got the space nor the quickly approaching $1,000 for it. I was, however, able to play the English prototype of Dinosaur Hunting: The Lost Continent. Developed by Scarab, who brought us Killing Zone and a few other titles before merging into Cavia, Dinosaur Hunting: The Lost Continent was an Xbox exclusive that didn't make it stateside, despite the fact that this was already fully translated, ready to go, and frankly, pretty good. Look at this cover, this is what they took from us. Dinosaur Hunting is Monster Hunter, like full stop, except it was released a year prior. Taking place in an alternate 1910s, you're playing as Malone Stein. You've got a cool dog companion, you're tossed into the Amazon rainforest, and there's a ton of dinosaurs roaming around. You gotta take them down in a humane way. Yeah, all of your weapons are tranks and stun-based because there's clearly a lot of research that needs to be done considering dinosaurs exist. There's a full campaign to play through as well as a free hunt mode for those just wanting to capture some dinos. You'll explore each level looking for clues, finding the genetic makeup of various dinosaurs to help you create stun shells. There's lots of voice plates in the environment with stories about how to survive and what happened to the advance parties. You'll use your resources to tackle small dudes, big stegosauruses, probably run from some T-Rexes, and this was just one of those games that I wish came overseas. I adore this old early 2000s video game voice acting.
Over here, you overgrown horny toad. Come and get me.
What makes you think you can tell me what I should or should not do? Are you the king of France?
France? Oh.
Dinosaur Hunting: The Lost Continent is charming. It's a fun single-player experience that was honestly pretty innovative. I mean, you've even got the big multi-area map to explore where you gotta track down your active dinosaur target. It's like a proto-Monster Hunter. The music is great, the menu sound effects are big and chunky, and well, I like it. Who needs proper walking animations when you can slip and slide? We did, however, get Phantom Crash, a game that I'm not really sure how to describe. Developed by Genki, who brought us Jade Cocoon and the Tokyo Extreme Racer series, Phantom Crash is half mecha arena fighter, half incredible menu simulator. You're in the far distant future of 2031 in the ruins of old Tokyo, competing in a sport called rumbling. It's just mecha combat with a simple premise, but the game inside is fascinating. You create a faceless character and talk to a massive breadth of characters via these menu systems, with almost enough dialogue to fill up a visual novel. A lot of these characters appear as just avatars on your screen, like your AI Salsa, the cat. And let us not forget about mysterious dog avatars waxing poetic about death. The mech combat is neat. There's a lot of suit customization, the visuals were fantastic, especially for 2002, and the feel of the Scoot vehicles is way better than I expected. I think by direct comparison, I might prefer like Mech Assault, especially as Phantom Crash had no online options, but there's something so charming about navigating these menus. It reminds me of the PC interface from .hack with just a little more of that early 2000s flair. I mean, just look at the intro video. Yeah! Phantom Crash also has a PlayStation 2 only sequel, Sly Steel Lancer Arena International, that does have online multiplayer, and I think I'm gonna need to get deeper into both of these one day. Turns out the Xbox and PlayStation 2 have a massive amount of big robot games. Murakumo, Renegade Mech Pursuit, Metal Wolf Chaos, Mech Assault 1 and 2, Exoskeleton, Battle Engine Aquila, Gun Griffin Allied Strike, and more. Do we count Metal Arms glitch in the system? I think we should.
I'm defective. My joints need regrinding. My crankshaft is bent. I can't even get my piston up.
How's about Crimson Sea? No, not Desert. The time Koei decided they were gonna make a futuristic action RPG.
The muton void is growing.
The sector must be isolated ASAP.
This is way past terrorism now.
But what? Who says something like that like Sonic the Hedgehog? Whoa! Crimson Sea is a game that really stood out for me growing up. You tend to forget just how heavy of a push Microsoft had with Japanese developers in this era, something we will get more into later. As someone who loved the Dreamcast and PlayStation 1, I was always craving more RPGs, action RPGs, and whatever spiky-haired protagonists I could get. Thankfully, a $6 week-long rental and show Crimson Sea came in clutch.
How can I take food out of their families' mouths? You think they live on fresh air? You think...
We, too. Well, we used to.
Can I count you in? Trust me. It's just that I'm a mysterious and sexy woman with a slightly lawless aura.
What the fuck? This is the exact type of thing that comes on the TV when your parents finally sit down and watch you play a game. And that's the kind of dialogue only localized in the cornball dimension, but still, I love it. In Crimson Sea, you play as Private Detective Sho, trying to make a living, who gets sucked up into the big space organization, the Intelligence Agency of the Galaxy, to serve a better purpose.
I'm Live D. Yes, the same sexy babe who hired you. But I'm also the commander of this base.
Is this allowed? I'd say that no one talks like this, but it seems like everyone in this universe does.
Women always have secrets. Take you. Aren't they always cheating on you?
Let's change the subject.
My name is Ketchak. I used to be IAG. Here's your coffee. Oops.
The game itself kind of falls into line with what Koei was making at the time. I always kind of viewed this as a sci-fi narrative heavy take on Dynasty Warriors. Each level has you fighting a swarm, and I do mean swarm of mutons, endless bugs and aliens set on killing all of humanity. And you'll use various weapons to make it happen. Each weapon works as a melee and ranged attack that'll change depending on what you pick. You can swap in the middle of combat in the pause menu, and they all level up with repeated use. I found the shotgun and machine gun equivalents to make quick work of bugs, but at a certain point you could tell I needed to grind it out a bit more. Some of them get spongy. The supporting cast of characters, while all visually and audibly ridiculous, are funny and memorable. They do accompany you into some battles, which unfortunately also results in a lot of babysitting, as the mutant swarms will take them down real easily. If you haven't prepped enough healing items, they might go down real quick. I will say the controls take a bit to get used to. They resemble tank controls way closer than Dynasty Warriors, and sharp movements left and right result in the camera swinging with a mighty force. You have to hold on onto a trigger in order to strafe left and right, and sometimes this can be annoying in the midst of combat. And if you want to do manual aiming, you have to hold both triggers down. What? It can be clunky. A lot of missions have strict time limits where you're hunting down unknown objects, and even more have special point conditions that are hidden until it's finished. You'll eventually get access to neo-psionic attacks to buff up your repertoire, but it's hard to keep up with the new spells considering how sparse money is in this game. All of that said, I think Crimson Sea is an awesome game. It has these big set-piece bosses, it's got a great sense of humor, even if it wasn't intentional, a silly cast of characters, a mix of fun guitar butt rock and big orchestral scores. The sci-fi setting is unique. It actually reminds me a lot of Phantasy Star Online. It's got this mix of future tech, past future tech, organic matter, and ridiculous outfits. Some characters have hairstyles that'll make nude Final Fantasy X-2 blush, and truly, the only thing that bums me out is the lack of additional playable characters. You're just show. Unfortunately, you don't get to play as Bo-Ron.
Ekdal, from soldier of fortune on one planet to hero of the galaxy. Wish I could do that.
Also the camera too. It can be disorienting in small hallways. Funny enough, similarly to Phantom Crash, this actually also got a PlayStation 2 sequel as well, Crimson Sea 2. It's packing a similar art style, similar reviews, and the same goofy sense of humor, now with a new playable character and some multiplayer. I'll get to this one day since this isn't on Xbox, but for now I'll continue enjoying these silly lines of dialogue.
Ekdal.
Show you're still not ready. Keep your guard up. I don't want you to die.
And that's enough of the good stuff. The Xbox does have a pretty sizable library, and not all of them are worthwhile. I mean, sometimes you can just pop something into the console and be like, what in the world am I looking at? For example, Pulse Racer. And yes, that's the real box art. That's real. Pulse Racer. Taking place in the far distant future of 2024, I think I forgot about this. Pulse Racer has you driving a cart that's tied to your character's heart rate. If you go too fast, you have a heart attack and die, therefore completely nullifying the point of a racing game. Never mind the fact that it looks, feels, and sounds like noise. It's got a rare 1.9 from IGN. It's got a ridiculous premise that prevents you from having fun, and almost every course is endless hallways. But it's got one of my favorite worst box arts of all time, and I respect it for that. Look at it, bask in its glory. Truthfully, there's a whole lot of bottom-of-the-barrel exclusives on the old Xbox. Bruce Lee Quest of the Dragon is famously awful, we've talked about it before, and sure enough, it's still rough. Kabuki Warriors is an excellent idea with terrible execution. A fighting game where all the battles take place in a kabuki theater. Heck yeah, a shame about the everything else. GameSpot's Worst of the Year 2001, Edge Magazine's first 1 out of 10 review, and well, just look at it. Then, speaking of goofy box art, we got Knight's Apprentice Memorick's Adventures. Developed by MC2, who would go on to become Microids, who we've talked about a lot on this channel. Knight's Apprentice is a 3D action platformer where you play as Memorick here on a quest from Merlin to save the world. We got wizards, we got warriors, but most importantly, we got a complete lack of sauce. And you look at the gameplay and you might think that it's kind of like Zelda, but no, it's actually a lot closer to a bog standard platformer and collectathon. Most everything in this game is done by grabbing little white orbs to consume to unlock doors and then teleporters. The combat is incredibly underwhelming. You've got like a 3-hit combo and a few unlockable skills as you go further, but most enemies die in a few hits. Actually, enemies don't even have what you need to progress and you can just walk by them, so fighting is generally a waste of time, especially when you can die extremely easily. Thankfully, there's a ton of checkpoints and infinite lives, so it's a totally valid strategy to just run past everything, collect orbs, and then move on to the next area. Boss fights are usually a wait for the moment to strike type of affair where you'll just hold block and dodge until the opportunity opens for a hit or two. Most of the environments are samey, lacking bright saturation, and there's not much of a narrative to string you along. It's just, hey, remember King Arthur? I bet you'll be kinda like that guy as Morgana and Mordred try to do evil stuff. I gotta say, it's pretty funny that everyone in this Arthurian legends inspired world just speaks in a generic North American accent.
Morgana, where did you come from? Adaparum Lemon?
and tandem via.
Did this guy just say lemon?
Lemon?
Memorick isn't very memorable, which is a shame, because I think of its cover art all the time. Same with Blackstone Magic and Steel. Whoa, look at all these cool anime characters on the original Xbox. I can't wait to see how it looks in game. Wait. Hold up, something's not right. Where'd the anime go? Blackstone, also known as X-Chaser in Japan, is the Western conversion of an isometric anime dungeon crawler in the style of Gauntlet. One where, despite showing the original character designs on the cover, were ripped out in favor of some different Western-styled art, even though it still has them in the instruction manual. It's got this banger J-pop opening theme and video, one that was sang by Chihiro Yonekura, who did the 08th MS team opening. It's all totally gone, and what's left is a confusing product with an opener that more closely resembles Creed's Bullets music video than X-Chaser. Honestly, I don't hate this. It's charming in its own strange way. It's too bad the game sucks. To be fair, it sucks in both regions. If you've ever wanted Gauntlet Legends, but with a third of the speed, hogwash hit detection that barely works, and a generic fantasy theme tossed on top of clearly anime designs, well, this is for you. The magic systems don't make a lot of sense, the bosses are way too powerful, especially for single player, and you can just tell how slowly paced it all is just from looking at the footage. Blackstone Magic and Steel feels like better games in slow motion, and that doesn't work on a console that already has Dark Legacy. Anyways, 08th MS team, top 5 Gundam show. I could have at least kept the song in. Nah, it doesn't work. There may not be any Mobile Suit Gundam video games on the original Xbox, but at least we got Tork Prehistoric Punk.
Yuck! Yuck! Someone has kidnapped my father!
What? How? Where?
3D platformers were a dime a dozen in the 6th generation of video game consoles, to the point where the genre kind of fell off for a few years. So if you weren't aware of Xbox exclusive Tork Prehistoric Punk, I wouldn't blame ya. I will say, compared to everything else in this section, it is better, just a little bit. Coming out in 2005, this game has you starting in the Stone Age as Tork here, a kid with a leather mask, horns, and a bolo as you jump, double jump, smash, and grab everything in sight. You can transform into beasts to get through hidden areas and punch dudes harder. We got point scores on the screen at all times, we got power-ups, and a nice variety of levels as well. I mean, you actually travel through time to the medieval times and the modern era. We got prehistoric kids on castles and a big city.
What do we do?
There's a bit of a strange development cycle here. Tork was made by T-Walk, a group of ex-Ubisoft developers who originally had a deal with Microsoft Studios for this to be a big release. That was eventually dropped. Microsoft retained the IP though, so they teamed back up with Ubisoft to release it exclusively for the Xbox, but at a budget price of $19.99 in the last year of that console's lifespan. I also don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with Tork. It's like the perfect rental for a kiddo in 2005. But that being said, it's a rental at best. There's no depth in any of the mechanics here. The platforming is relatively simple, and you deal with every enemy situation by holding the X button down and swinging the bolo around. It'll take up most stuff, and the rest you can do with a transformation. There's some neat mechanics where you swap over to the animal forms, like the armadillo bouncing, and I love the idea of traveling through time as a platformer. It really gives the variety I think a lot of these need. Some of the visuals look nice, the music fits with what they wanted to do, and I absolutely played more uninspired platformers. Owning this is probably not worth it, but it's perfectly fine for a quick adventure on a rainy day, especially if you're like 10.
I can't wait to challenge your son.
And lastly, the one, the only, Whacked.
Are you ready to get...
Yeah, we're doing it. It's too late. Developed by Presto Studios, the people responsible for that one Bandai Pippin live-action Gundam FMV game, No, I'm Not Kidding. Whacked is ridiculous. You're basically in this game show hellscape, not Dungeon Crawler Carl, where you compete as one of 7 contestants for, quote, the prize. That, the prize being anything you want. This is all run by the mouth-only Fantastic, who has you doing little games like dodgeball, death matches, King of the Hill, and of course, dodge a bunch of chickens while you collect stars. Each of the contestants is oozing the early 2000s edgy, goofy look, mostly because they're all supposed to represent the 7 deadly sins. We got Lucky the angry rabbit, who is wrath. We got Eugene the green penguin guy representing envy. And don't forget about the cover girl, Lucy, who's immediately stripped naked and covered in 2 censor bars because lust, I guess. I don't know how they got away with this in only a T rating. What in the world?
Let's get dirty. Fully contributing to the delinquency of minors.
The game in essence is a 4-player party game. You have a task to do, you do it to get first place, then you move on to the next stage and or cutscene. Sometimes you get a fake ad in the style of early 2000s lol so random flash animations that probably would have cracked me up when I was 12, to be honest. Whacked, it's hard to say this in a pot. Whacked is it whacked? How do you Whacked single player mode is clearly an afterthought to the whole concept they cooked up, which was truthfully the multiplayer. It was actually one of the first to have it when online officially launched. Yeah, with Xbox Live and $50 a year, you too could go online and move a character around and awkward tank controls as you shoot people on the internet. All with a wonderful audioscape, surely meant to enrage your parents.
Lucy's in the lead. Follow the beam of light and take her down. Lucky has the trophy.
Whew, that's a lot. I actually think there's a good amount of potential in something like Whacked. There's clear production value in the world they've made. The character designs are memorable, and there's always room for a casual multiplayer game. The original Xbox didn't have a lot of these in general, let alone something that could go online. Fusion Frenzy could never. I just don't think that there's a lot of room for a power-up heavy arena shooter with wacky cartoon designs that goes full edgy. I'm sure there's someone out there who's a huge fan, picked Whacked off of the bottom of the bargain bin and played it for hundreds of hours online, but it ain't me. Look, we could clearly spend like another 400 hours talking about classics, gems, or just forgotten things on the original Xbox. The library has a lot of depth. So maybe we do a little rapid fire so we can wrap this up before it gets too long in the teeth. Also rapid fire because I have already talked about Crazy Taxi 3 before, but it's Crazy Taxi.
Crazy Taxi 3!
Crazy Taxi 3 High Roller is essentially 3 games in one. Sega partnered up with Microsoft for a bunch of exclusives, and this one is a compilation of the first 2 plus the new stage, Glitter Oasis. Basically Las Vegas. You might not have known there was a 3rd Crazy Taxi, let alone a 2nd, but it's exactly what you would want it to be. Fast driving, goofy minigames where you try and make sense of the taxi physics, and a whole bunch of the offspring. I just like that I can roll down a football stadium dodging cars while listening to Want You Bad. This is prime 2000s. Sega also brought the Otogis, Toe Jam and Earl 3, Panzer Dragoon Orta, Gun Valkyrie, and probably the best games on the console, Outrun 2 and 2006 Coast to Coast. Never mind Shenmue 2 escaping its PAL Dreamcast prison and finally becoming playable for North America. And beyond Sega, there was a ton of Japanese support on this console. Ever played Metal Dungeon? It's like an infinite randomly generated dungeon crawler where you make your own characters, stretch them as wide as possible, and watch them auto battle dudes at a crawling pace. Okay, not a great start. Microsoft Studios Japan brought us Blinks the Time Sweeper, Kakuto Chojin, Phantom Dust, and whatever nude at natural ultimate digital experiment was. This is like, what if you combined Lifeline and Seaman into a single game and then talk to a robot woman with your Xbox mic? Just far less exciting than either of those.
Hello? Are you listening?
Similarly, there's a bunch of Japanese games that never made it stateside. Stuff of every flavor, like Petite Copter 2. Yeah, we got Cat, Cyber Attack Team for the visual novel strategy RPG enthusiasts. There's Bistro Cupid, a hybrid cooking simulator and shop sim RPG dating simulator. This one looks kinda awesome actually. It's even got a sequel, Bistro Cupid 2. Boot up the Mouthful plus Plum 2 if you want a neat puzzle game. Also, no joke, due to the Xbox having little popularity in Japan, this became a super rare title. It's currently listed as the highest priced game on the console in all regions. So yeah, more than an entire Steel Battalion setup. Woo, all that money for a little bit of this. Like your dating visual novels with a side of fantasy, we got Brave Knight Leaveland Avenue. Like your dating visual novels with a side of sci-fi strategy RPG, the original Galaxy Angel is actually available on the Xbox. And yeah, if that art style looks familiar, it's because it's by Broccoli, the people who'd make Digi-Chariot. Not gonna lie, I probably would have played the crap out of this. All you had to do back then was put a cool anime OP on the disc and I was sold. How about big-ass traditional RPGs? Because there's a full-on Shin Megami Tensei release, SMT9. This unfortunately has yet to receive a fan translation, but I think the demand for Xbox ROM hacks is a little lower, meaning I'll probably never get to fully understand Innocent Tears, Damon Vector, or the bizarre fantasy musical rhythm game Angelic Concert. And that includes one of Aqua Plus's first releases too, Tenereza, an action RPG with banger music about a girl running a hybrid magical cooking shop, collecting recipes, and doing quests for the townspeople. Maybe the combat's a little simple, sure, but it's the type of release that'd likely be a big hidden gem had it come stateside. However, there are a handful of games that did get a translation. I'm a little bummed we never got Rent a Hero #1 or SMT, but thanks to the magic of the internet, there are a few. From Software's Thousand Land is an online terramorphing real-time strategy game where you direct these little candy corn dudes to do stuff. It's a slow burn, but a super interesting idea from the time when FromSoft was just making anything. There's of course the original Metal Wolf Chaos patch, the Wild Rings if you're into some wrestling, and Toge R for some initial D-love. Like, actually, the entire game has you racing in Toge, Japanese mountain passes. This might be a little outdated now that Forza Horizon 6 is a thing, which rules by the way, but there's still a ton of charm here. I mean, we might as well. Lastly, I gotta talk about Drihoo. I think that's how you pronounce it. Drihoo is an absurd Japanese-only release about dwarves in caves. You're a spelunker, you're looking for treasure and upgrades, and you're fully powered by Beeve. Not beer, Beeve. Your name is also Dunk. So yeah, go dig in, drink an absurd amount of Beeve to regain power, fight the undead in random caves, die, and then try again. I'm not really sure if Drihoo is good, but it sure is fun. It's got this lighthearted feel, a bunch of colorful NPCs, and a complicated amount of systems for maintaining the caverns that you drill. These things can collapse on you, so you want to make sure it holds together as you look for more valuables. And this one needs you to sink some time into it for sure, as you slowly upgrade your hammer and drill for both combat and digging. And the combat's not great, but it is passable. Thankfully, the translation does enough, and there's actually a whole player guide on the internet for those looking to get into the drilling. And you should. Just try not to die. Need more beef. And of course, we can't leave without a quick look at some forgotten classics. When it comes to Oddworld titles, Munch's Oddysee seems to be the one that people bring up the least. Probably because Munch is a silly character and this game is a very different fully 3D platformer that seems to have a mixed reception in modern times. I enjoyed it as a kid, mostly because I had no idea what the Oddworld series was, but I think we can all agree that Stranger's Wrath clears it. When you think of big Xbox exclusives that might be a bit more obscure in this day and age, you might think of Brute Force, aka the next Halo according to the official Xbox magazine. Brute Force was the third and final game by Digital Anvil, and it was a pretty big deal. Coming out mid-2003, Microsoft wanted another big shooter with lots of multiplayer potential, and Brute Force wasn't bad. Just, you know, not online, a year kinda too late. However, the hype was there. It became the fastest selling Xbox game at launch. It even outsold the original Halo out of the gate. That's ridiculous. Obviously, that momentum did not continue. The reviews were mostly like, yeah, it's pretty good, but its repetition and lack of charm really held it back. If you were on the Xbox, you were probably more drawn to Halo. Halo had that mysterious air about the world, while Brute Force was mostly a lot of running and gunning and a lot less wonder. It's a fun co-op game for a weekend though, especially because you can play as the big lizard guy named Brutus. Dude's staring you down from the moment you pick up the box. He's gonna kick your ass, dude.
What a dump. I'm gonna find a squad mate here.
You are my new pack.
And lastly, I'm sure some of y'all have heard of Breakdown, a game with review scores no one can agree on. Developed by Namco, Breakdown is a combination Pizza Hut Taco Bell, a first-person shooter, and action brawler. You play as Derek Cole, a dude in a research facility with no memories, who sleeps, eats, punches a few times, and does a Wakanda Forever in the mirror every day until the cycle's broken. Turns out you're the subject of some illegal research, and a mysterious woman is here to save the day. Easy enough. However, the main shtick of Breakdown is its melee combat. Now, melee first-person combat wasn't really a thing when Breakdown came out. It's still not really represented in games, with it mostly being like click to throw a punch or using a sword like in Chivalry. Breakdown decided to go full-on delay-based input combos on us, and what we got is a game that is stuck bizarrely between two decent ideas that has a hard time pulling off either. One with Xboxes laying around the heavily locked down research facility because we gotta know what console we're on. Oh, and also first-person vomiting.
Kill him.
Okay, now it's time to lose your lunch.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Aiming a gun in this game is a huge pain in the ass. Like, this is 2004. First-person shooters have been around forever at this point, but for some reason, Breakdown has you holding the guns this close to your face, needing to press a button to lock onto a target before firing, and then having no actual input on the quality of your aim. It is janky as hell, and you'll often find deaths caused by a lack of what feels like player agency. And your punching only goes so far when you're being showered with bullets, at least at the beginning. Slowly over time, you'll gain access to more powers, supernatural powers. You can summon up the power of the not God hand and ragdoll the crap out of people. Although I don't think you're as powerful as Alex. Look how fast she is.
Let's go.
Further into the game, you're blocking bullets with your arms crossed. Eventually, you're throwing massive fire or like light energy balls at people into the distance, and your moveset is fully realized. It takes a second to get there. It's not super intuitive, and I'm not sure how good Breakdown is actually, but I sure had a fun time playing it again. There's not much out there like this. The story is full cheese. The villain aura farms menacingly, and I can't think of many video games that let you see your character's full body in the first person, even when ledge climbing. Breakdown is backwards compatible on the Xbox One and Series, by the way. So, you know, if you have one, it's worth a curiosity play. I just think it's kind of hilarious that the primary way that you regain health is to crush cans of soda or juice. Whatever it is, perhaps Derek's superpowers, maybe even the entire game is just the craziest sugar rush of all time.
Sounds like there's a helicopter on the roof. That's our only ticket out of this place.
Alrighty, we got one more game today, and I think it's a pretty big one. In 2002, when Microsoft acquired Rareware, they were the masters of the 3D platformer and pretty good at first-person shooters. And then they released Grabbed by the Ghoulies. This is Grabbed by the Ghoulies. I, like many others, probably slept on this due to it being an original Xbox exclusive, as well as the totally off-putting cover, one with the words Donkey Kong on it, which is crazy. But in this one, the concept is simple. You play as a kid named Cooper. You're looking for shelter from a storm with your girlfriend, Amber. You come into this mansion and everything goes wrong. Suddenly everyone's trying to grab you. Also, he turns your girlfriend into Shrek. A simple concept for a game that started with a simple pitch. Apparently, Ghoulies is British slang for balls, and they thought that was funny, so there you go. Grabbed by the Ghoulies. We're playing this on Rare Replay because it looks nicer, by the way. Once you step into this mansion, you're gated into challenge rooms where you have to do whatever it asks of you, usually defeating all the enemies on the screen before green vines unveil another door, and then you can slide into that one, repeating the process until you finish the game. Unlike other Rare games from this era, and the fact that they gave you a full map to look at, you can't actually freely explore this mansion. Instead, each room is a scene in a chapter, one step towards getting to the next thing. Each scene has a hidden collectible in it, and if you miss one, you'll have to level select backwards. I was surprised with how linear Grabbed by the Ghoulies was, considering Rare's track record, and also the fact that there's all these doors. Like, they're just gated off. But that's not to say it doesn't have any charm. It's got that signature Grant Kirkhope soundscape, it's got goofy animations for all of the NPCs, and aesthetically, it is about what you would want from Rare at this time. It's just the gameplay that kind of puzzles me. Combat is done by, once again, pointing the right analog stick towards whatever you want to hit and watching Coop do his thing. Each ghoulie has a health value above their head, and you typically just need to get rid of everything. You do have the ability to pick up objects in the mansion, like vases, and make improvised weapons. There's also parts of the story that'll have you using a proper weapon, like a super soaker gun, to squirt zombies with. It feels way better than Obi-Wan for sure, but there's also no real sense of progression. Anytime anytime you enter a new stage, your health is set to a random value. It doesn't matter what you were at. So like if you're playing awesome and picking up all the power-ups, don't matter. You're gonna go into this room, do what it tells you to do, and you're gonna like it, which also includes scary QTEs. Yeah, that was actually Banjo. I guess he was murdered. At the time, it was pretty wild to see a popular Nintendo character on the Xbox, even if they were doing their best to jump scare you. That's in quotations, by the way. Also, for some reason, they taxidermied On Guard from Donkey Kong Country. Who owns this mansion? He's clearly out of control. The answer is Baron Von Ghoul, who is not very threatening. I was kind of hoping they'd have the famous fail state cutscenes if you die in this game, but for some reason they don't. You just reload into the same level. Actually, a vast majority of the narrative's told in this storybook style, which works sometimes, but it kind of lacks the charm of Banjo and Conquer. All the dialogue is done where they pop up and the character faces like a silent film. There's moments where it does stuff not in the book and it looks totally fine. To iterate, I don't think Grabbed by the Ghoulies is bad, but it's absolutely not quite what I would have expected from Rare at this time. I mean, Star Fox Adventures had just come out. I know they could do more, but apparently due to the Microsoft buyout, they scaled it way back into this arena challenge thing that we ended up getting. You can really tell that Grabbed by the Ghoulies ended up being a transition title when they moved into stuff like Conquer Live and Reloaded, Perfect Dark Zero, and cameo elements of power, and it does absolutely suffer from it. What was originally planned to be this big open-ended game, probably a lot closer to Luigi's Mansion, turned into something that's just kind of okay. Reviews at the time were a mixed bag, and retrospective reviews are a little harsher. And I think that's because they had to unfortunately be compared against their own legacy at this point. Slap any other developer on this, heck, make it a licensed game, and it's totally fine. All of that reflected into sales too, leading to a game that's just kind of weird and forgotten. Even Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts dunks on it. There's an entire trash can filled with unsold copies. Grabbed by the Ghoulies isn't a bona fide classic, but it sure was Rare's first original Microsoft Xbox game. Anyone else remember when they advertised it by saying, hey, remember Donkey Kong?
Grabbed by the Ghoulies, from Rare, the makers of Donkey Kong Country. Ready to eat for everyone. It's good to play together.
And so there you have it, a bunch of forgotten and weird original Xbox video games. It's definitely a sign of a bygone era. It's kind of strange to look and see how far they've fallen since like Halo 2 and Whacked. Okay, maybe not that far. If you have any other Xbox games you think I should take a look at, let me know down in the comments. I was thinking about doing Galleon, but I couldn't quite make it fit, so hey, maybe another time. If you liked today's video, check out the sponsor, Ugreen and Honkai Star Rail. If you want to support the channel directly, head on over to the Patreon and become a backer. It helps a ton. You can also buy a t-shirt over at the Pixel Empire, become a subscriber, or just like write a comment that says, I'm not sure, in honor of our man, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Anyways, I'm gonna head out for now. I've been Austin, and I'll catch you guys next time when we talk about some demakes. Thank you all so much for watching. Special Patreon shout out to Biggest Skelly, Blackfoot Ferret, Blake Thomas, Cheeks, Chloric Fox, Chris Shelton, Hey Quiggles, Jacoby Fitzpatrick, Nocturnal Nix, Platinum Rose, and Vox. Thank you all so much for your generous support. It's kind of crazy to see how far Xbox has fallen since their big hype launch in the 2000s, but 25 years will do that. Look, I'm just saying everyone needs to play Deathrow. That game is so much fun. Deathrow LAN Party win. We'll have another video coming out this month, as well as a new series I've been working on for a little bit, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Thanks to everyone who supports the channel. It really goes a long way to help us pay our editors and keep everything going when YouTube numbers are generally lower. And I can't thank you guys enough. Anyways, I'm gonna go, I gotta play Battletech. I'm addicted now. Okay, bye.